It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast with more property insights in your weekend, connecting you to the best real estate information right around Australia. We do it 7 days a week, talking to all of the important real estate experts. And remember, we are not a real estate company, so you get unbiased information. And you can stream us anytime on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcast and Amazon, just to name a few. Well, I hope your weekend is going well, particularly if you're looking at property. It is Sunday, February the 16th today. And it was a pretty busy week on the Real Estate Breakfast. We kicked it off on Monday, didn't we? We spoke to Corey Skiberis, and he's a partner from McGrath there in Northwest in Sydney. Also caught up with Jules Munro in Townsville, and we were finding out about some of those booming affordable suburbs that first-time buyers are absolutely loving and moving into Townsville. Anthony Webb from Bell Property, the head of Victoria. We spoke to Anthony about rentvesting and also co-investing, just to make the loan process a little easier when you're sharing the load. Nick Buick, he was here talking about management rights. And Daniel talking about tax breaks on your property and entitlements that not everyone is claiming. So we'll bring you some of those highlights from all of those interviews. We'll do that next.
If you're a new listener, welcome. We talk to the most knowledgeable real estate experts across Australia every day from 6 a.m.
And yes, let's crack on with some of these tips that you can give people attending in 2025. These auctions. Rattle off a couple if you can for us there, Corey, what people should be focusing on.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, the main tips first and leading up is just do all your due diligence, right? That's one thing. So you can bid confidently on the property. And that's the common theme and trend you will see of all the winners of auctions. They bid confidently. The one thing I say to all of my buyers, when they're lining up for auction is, guys, you're the only one here that knows your true budget. No one else on the floor does. The trick to secure this auction is to bid like you have no budget to scare the competition away. Because at the end of the day, the amount of people that have come up to me after an auction and said, I stopped bidding only because I felt like he never was going to, that has won the auction for them. So that confident bidding is definitely the strongest method.
What about these weird numbers? Some auctioneers say, don't just round off the numbers, put some bizarre numbers that'll sort of throw off your competition.
Yeah, I think it throws the auctioneer off more than anything.
Yeah.
But, look, it's definitely a strategy that I've seen implemented more and more over the years. And I've held over 1,500 auctions in my career, but I'd say those weird numbers are only coming in the last couple of years. But I think the strength of an auction as a buyer is, like I said, it's bidding like you have no budget, and that's going to be your strongest asset. Obviously, you know your budget and you stop if you get there, but bidding like you don't have one's what's going to win the property.
What about a couple of things that, because you are so experienced, a couple of things that you see which are basic mistakes, maybe pretty obvious ones, pretty simple ones, but people make these mistakes regardless. Very frustrating, of course, from an auctioneer's point of view to actually see all of that on the day.
One of the biggest mistakes that I see people do, and it just shows the competition where you're at, is bringing out your calculator and calculating things right towards the end there, because it just shows that you're coming to your limit, and that next bid that they put in could really knock you out. But another one as well is waiting for the words on the market. I see a lot of buyers wait to hear those words, and not all auctioneers and agents will announce a home's on the market before it's sold. And I've seen people miss opportunities at buying because they've just waited to the last minute thinking they're hearing those words, and then they never come.
I've spoken to a lot of auctioneers over the years and have to say that calculator, that's the first time I have heard somebody talk about that. What an obvious thing that is. As soon as you said that, I thought, wow, that is so obvious that somebody is coming to the end of their budget. That is so dumb if you do that.
And you'd be surprised at how much it happens, Greg. I see it in many auctions all the time. And if I'm working with a buyer, I'm trying to have those conversations saying, guys, let's put the calculator away, want your competition to know.
We are not surprised. We have been undervalued and our market has been doing it tough for way too long. We're not surprised that quality homes are available here and that we have hit the radar for investors and those migrating to North Queensland and calling Townsville home.
So what about these suburbs? We've got suburbs like, let me look, Vincent, Heatley, we've got Cranbrook there, we've got Rasmussen, and also Condon.
These suburbs, so two of those suburbs are out on our Riverway suburbs. So they're a little further away from the epicentre of Townsville, and they have definitely been dominated by modern estates, but also some of our older homes. And they have been called our poorer cousins in the past, but watch them shine now. It's super exciting to see that. What we've also seen with Vincent, Heatley and Cranbrook are these are some of our fringe suburbs to the city. They're very centrally located, but they've always been known for affordable housing, and they are full of ex-defence homes that are built with strength, but just never saw the popularity rise of the modern build. So our outer suburbs and our newer suburbs took over in popularity, and our more modest suburbs floundered there for many years. But now they are the go-to suburb because they are the most affordable.
Yeah, so first-time home buyers that are listening, listen up here, because this suburb of Vincent, that is the third on the list. $436,000, that's the median value. In the last 12 months, 39.1% rise, but it is still well under 500K. Then you've got Heatley, number 4 on the list at $458,000. So the pricing under 500 grand is there. Rockhampton, Gladstone and Tweed Heads, that all saw significant growth as well in 2024, fueled by migration from other states. But let's talk about Townsville, because as far as migration is concerned, you're getting them coming from everywhere.
We have population positive, and we certainly started that during COVID. As a real estate agent, my phone never rang as frequently from out of town as it did in COVID. And in that period, it absolutely was the people moving. It was family, friends, it was those who could work remotely, it was those working in national or federal, educational or government jobs where they could pick up and relocate to somewhere far more affordable, no travel. People were eliminating 2 hours of travel in their day by relocating to our city centre. And our city centre is already a fantastic size, but population well over the 200,000 mark now. We really do stand out in the regional sphere for Queensland. Gladstone and Rockhampton are beautiful towns, but they don't shine as brightly as us.
What about the rent vesting? Let's get back to these first home buyers. Is it a smart pathway to home ownership? Of course, they do kind of struggle with this, I think. That is the first home buyers, because they really want to get into their own home, but many of them are turning to rent vesting as a way to sort of get on the property ladder.
Craig, I think rent vesting is probably one of the smartest things first home buyers can do. I mean, I did it myself, so I'm probably a little bit biased, but I think it's an opportunity where you can buy a property, you can put some tenants in, you're not necessarily having to pay the full mortgage yourself. I think if they're smart and look for the right type of property where they're going to see some capital growth, when they get to the point where they want to potentially sell it, move into it, or take that next step, they've got the capital growth along with the hand with the mortgage along the way. It allows them to take that proper step into the real estate market as well.
And with the banks, yes, we've got these rate cuts that are coming up. How much of this sort of co-investing are you seeing where people are pooling their resources with friends or family so that they can split deposits and the costs? And it's all about, I guess, just making it a little bit easier in securing real estate.
It's something that's happening a little bit more. I wouldn't say it's 5% of the market or even really 1% of the market at this stage, because I think it's relatively new. And if you're going to enter into an arrangement like this, it needs to be someone that you trust and you know relatively well. But I think the barriers of entry into purchasing a property in real estate these days is really difficult. The stamp duty, particularly here in Victoria, is so high that doing anything you can to sort of get in and sort of get that capital growth and get your foot in the door, get a track record and get some equity behind you is amazing. So this co-investing is probably something we'll see a little bit more, even if it is just parents helping their children buy a property by co-investing with them rather than just giving them the money. I know my wife and I sit there from time to time. I've got a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old, and we sort of think about, okay, how are our kids going to get into the market? What do we think we need to do to help them get into the marketplace? And I think this is a really good place to start.
Anthony, before I let you go, last week we were talking to Charlotte, who's the CEO, all about real estate, people getting involved in the real estate market. I would imagine that this is a very big part of your job. The attraction factor, I mentioned that 2025 probably a good year because of the rate cuts and what that will do to the market.
I think it's a huge focus. We've seen a lot of people leave the real estate industry over the last few years, particularly property managers and salespeople when things get a little bit tough. I think a lot of people, when they're entering into real estate, think that it's an easy way to make money and don't understand that the effort and sacrifice you need to make to be a successful real estate agent. That being said, one of the things we're really working on are those career pathways here at Bell, and I think we're going to see more people enter the real estate industry. And I think it's our job as a company is to help people through that pathway and not only just get into real estate and get out, because I think, in my experience over the years, if 3 people enter, the sales arena, usually 2 are out within a 3-year period. So what we want to do is create pathways where people can come and join Bell Property, Hocking Stewart, really follow through our pathways and set them up for success rather than just throwing them in the deep end and hoping that they succeed.
The objective with management rights is, to deliver the best outcomes for the lot owners in the scheme and the people living in that building. That's what it's all about. There are criticisms levelled at the Queensland model, namely that it's organised corruption because someone can buy a 25-year management agreement and then there's very little, or it is difficult to oust that person. Similarly, in New South Wales, there's criticisms, and we've seen them play out where you can have a lot of control handed over to one individual of a scheme. So even though they may not have that contract for as long, they have a lot more control over what's going on in that scheme. To me, I think the Queensland model works better because the manager is a lot owner in the scheme as well. They have a long-term interest in ensuring that scheme is well run because it's tied up to it for 25 years as well. So it's in their interest to make sure that scheme's running well, that building's looked after. A lot of building maintenance schedules can run for decades. Like your paint schedule, for instance, that's a 10-year term there on the paint schedule. You have to paint every 10 years. You have to do certain things between those 10 years to maintain your paint's warranty. If you're managing a facility for 3 years, that sort of long-term maintenance scheduling isn't really as much of a concern for you. So we have in Queensland basically a vested interest in making sure those buildings are well run. And that obviously delivers the best outcomes for the lot owners in the scheme. And also because the manager is there for the long game in Queensland, they'll go the extra mile. And that's been proven. To work out a manager's salary, you do what's called a time and motion study. And in 80% of those time and motion studies that have been, I believe it was 2003, looking at the data here, they were found that the managers were doing more work than they were being paid for. So essentially, lot owners are getting value for money because the manager, again, has a long-term interest in that building.
So what's the deal there? What is the disconnect? Why are they not talking to accountants and getting professional advice?
Look, some of the feedback that we're receiving from our clients is that just due to the cost of living pressures, they've had to make certain cuts in their expenditure, doing their own taxes through the ATO online portal as well. It is a crucial piece of information that they need to be aware of. And that's why having a close-knit group of advisors like an accountant on your side to really give you that advice and that taxation advice that's tailored to you as an individual property investor is so crucial today.
Yeah, so trying to save money, I've never really sort of understood why people decide to try and save money, cut corners and cut out the accountant, the tax advisor, Because my experience, as with most people, the amount of money that you spend, you're getting it back. So if you're a millennial listening to this morning, go and see an accountant, a tax expert, because you will end up saving money. Now, you guys are quoted as saying that for a brand new 3-bedroom house, landlords can potentially claim between $10,000 and $15,000 in deductions within the first year. Many, once again, they're surprised by this, but they shouldn't be if they look at all the devil in the detail.
That's exactly right. And look, $10,000 to $15,000 for a brand new 3-bedroom home is very typical. You look at all the construction cost increases we've been having over the past few years as well. The result of those construction cost increases is that property investors are now seeing higher deductions because those cost increases is resulted in higher build costs, which ultimately means the end investor can now claim higher deductions as well. And those figures can go up higher as well for 4-bedroom homes, for apartment complexes as well. They're very typical figures, and they're figures that no one should be scoffing at. If you're in that boat where you have just purchased that new property or that old property, you really need to be getting that advice from your accountant and talking to a quantity surveyor about a tax depreciation report.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.